One of my thumbnail mini-series. I'm just going to scroll through and do some artist commentary as I go along. So, we have our opening sequence here with the city, the car driving, Blossoms looking out the window, shot to the car. Blossom remarks on how nice a day it is, and Buttercup is like, no it's not. There's a couple different scenes of her in the car. Bubbles is fiddling with the radio, Professor reminiscing about driving his girls to school. Buttercup wants a car, but not till her 18th birthday. Professor reminiscing about how he's only going to be doing this for so long. Bubbles commentary, Professor commentary. Blossom. Bubbles again. I think this is the part where she's saying she'll miss the Professor. And Buttercup's like, he'll be just in the basement. So, we have the school scene coming up. Buttercup realizes that she's in trouble. Takes a dive. That's the first version, and then let's try that again. And I like the second one much better. Bubbles is hiding from Buttercup. Bubbles proceeds to wave to Mitch, causing Buttercup distress. Blossom is like, you shouldn't be acting like this over a breakup. And Buttercup is like, you don't understand. Bubbles is like, oh, I have so many friends that I have dated and not dated. And Buttercup says, yeah, but you're Pocahontas. Cue to pissy Bubbles. Blossom is angry because her clothes are getting ruined. Buttercup proceeds to ruin them some more. Buttercup, she gets the Professor to park a few blocks away from school or just near the bush. She gives him a kiss on his cheek, and I have a little note saying, oh, look up daughter kissing father on cheek. I don't think I did though. Bubbles. And then Blossom asking if things are going to be alright. Professor's like, yes, you'll be fine. She gives him a kiss, and then she goes to school. And we have a shot of the school. Bubbles is all excited and happy, and Buttercup's like, I hate this. And I have my very early character designs going on. Like, Bubbles looks nothing like she does now. Like, it's just, lots of things have changed. Buttercup's like, life sucks, I'm going to find the boys. And then she's just like, but Mitch is with the boys. I think I did a pretty good job at making Buttercup be like, oh shit. And Bubbles is probably asking where Will is. She's cranky. And then Blossom shows up. And they meet Robin. Robin is like, oh, you cut your hair. Blossom greets her. We got Mitch coming up in the background here. Robin's like, oh no. She says hello to alert Buttercup. And we get our first view of Mitch, and he looks nothing like he does now. And Bubbles is evil, as usual. Buttercup tries to say hello, and she gets brushed off. And she's just like, what? Blossom's just like, why does the principal want to see us? And Mitch is just like, I don't know, better get going. And we cut to Buttercup looking extremely put out about Mitch. And Blossom being just like, what just happened? And then we get a completely different change in the art style. And Bubbles is just being savage as usual. And Blossom's like, oh my gosh, stop fighting. It's time to go see the principal. See, cut to Robin raving away, and we get a scene where they're walking to the principal, and Blossom's like strutting her stuff, and Buttercup's just like, can you not? And then she gets distracted because a random himbo is just like, hey, there's nice threads. Cue to Blossom being all flustered, and Buttercup being like, oh my gosh, this is so annoying. And Blossom's just like, well, maybe if you dressed up, you get attention. And she's just like, I don't want attention, that's gonna get me you know what. And then Bubbles proceeds to block what she's going to say in probably one of my favorite panels. I did so much in this one. I gave her heart eyes. I made the sound effects, and I even made Blossom's hair bow coming off. I wish I could have translated that over into the comic a little bit better, but I was a noob, so I didn't know. And we get our shot of Will, and he just looks like your average chunk of a meathead. Blossom and Buttercup are just like, we don't like him, but we're going to try to be civil. And they make out. And Bubbles is just like, oh my god, I love you. And we go to the part where he's just like, I saw your shoe ad. And cue the continued disgust. And of course Will's just like, oh yeah, you guys look good too. And they're like, gee, thanks. And he's like, oh yeah, want to go make out? And Blossom's like, sorry, but we have to go. And now we go to the next episode. I think it will load. Yep, here we go. And then we cut to Buttercup complaining about Bubbles, being like, you take too long to leave your boyfriend. And then she's like, all savage again with Buttercup. Cue to Blossom sighing and having her like internal monologue about how she does not have a boyfriend and boo-hoo. Yet unbeknownst to her, she'll be meeting someone very soon. That's another one of my favorite panels. I just love their expressions. It's just good. And they're heading to Miss Keene's office, and I forgot to draw her hair bow. And surprise, surprise, the Rowdy Rough Boys. And Boomer does not look like that at all now. Oh my god, his ramen noodle hair is so terrible. There's Butch. He hasn't really changed all that much. I've polished his look a little bit, but yeah, pretty much the same. We got Brick, and he didn't look like I was making his head super tall, but then I like erased the hat a little bit because I know it was like getting ridiculous. But obviously he's improved some. I love that little show close up, and of course I got an accidental miniature shot in there when I was laying it out. I lost track of some of the images, and so they got stuck in there, unfortunately. Blossom's just like, what the heck are you doing here? Buttercup's just like, what the hell, man? Get out. And then she's just like, Buttercup, language. We get Butch being like, what the heck? And we got the grin. Boomer's just like, Butch is gonna stand up. And then Brick's gonna be like, something. And then Miss Naylor comes in and stops it. And then, like, is he holding a sphere or a pyramid? I couldn't tell. I didn't know what he was holding. But then I decided it was a sphere. And Buttercup slams it down on the table. And there's a little interaction. I think I made that part up, though. And we get Miss Naylor. She's like, come on. And Blossom and Bubbles proceed to leave the room, leaving Buttercup behind to glare and then brush past Butch. And Butch is just like, the redhead's prettier in person. Or I think that's later on, but yeah. Brick is just like, what the heck did we just do? Then the comment of, the redhead's prettier in person, and Brick is just like, don't you fucking dare. And he's just like, relax, man. And Buttercup's just like, what the hell are these three doing in my school? And a very shoddily drawn picture of the three boys. And then Butch laughing. And then we get to the end of the episode that I was going to plan out, and then we get to the office scene here. Blossom's reprimanding Buttercup. Bubbles is just like, what the heck are they doing here? They're interrogating Miss Naylor about why they're here. And then Miss Keene shows up in the office. And she's like, oh, I know about it all right. She sends Miss Naylor on her way, and she gives the girls their new school schedules. I love that shot, too. Nice profile. And some early chibi beginnings. Like, I hadn't quite started to envision the chibi versions yet, but they were starting to come through. And Buttercup's just like, oh, you cut my classes. She's like, how dare you? And Miss Keene's just like, did you actually look? And she's realizing she's... Oh yeah, this is the scene. I made this the chibi scene in the comic, but like, oh my god, Blossom's face. It's like, oh my god. And I did actually write some of the script down, what they were saying. And then Bubbles is just like, what's going on? Why do I have 2 lunch periods? And Miss Keene's just like, well, you gotta choose. And it's poor Bubbles. She can't have her choir and cheer. Yeah, and Bubbles just like, well, you don't even look. Bubbles is like, oh, well, Buttercup, you weren't even looking forward to those classes. It's not the same. And Miss Keene's just like, I can't bump the classes out, honey. Poor Bubbles. Blossom tries to soothe it over. And then and then Blossom's just like, well, what classes will we be sharing with the boys? And then Miss Keene's just like, well, actually, you're not going to be sharing them at all. And Buttercup's just like, what? Not fair. And she's like, why can't you bump Blossom out of her AP classes? And she's just like, no. And then Bubbles finally has to make the decision about what classes she's going to choose. And then Miss Keene's just like, oh, he'll get over it, sweetie. I particularly like that picture of the dejected Bubbles. I think it captured her emotions pretty well in that scene. And then I like that sequence too. That expression of Blossoms is like so spot on for that scene. And she's like, I bet you were glad that you're not teaching kindergarten anymore, Miss Keene. And she's like, well, when you get down to the heart of it, it's pretty much the same. And that is the end of episode 1 of my thumbnails. And I'm sure they will be getting better. Like, I really don't know how much to say about these, because I know you guys can see them on webtoons, so it's just kind of like me rambling on and on. But if you guys get any form of enjoyment out of this, then I've done a good job. So, see you next month with episode 2.